In the vast digital landscape where data flows like rivers and servers act as bustling cities, NMS is the vigilant sentinel that keeps everything running smoothly. It's the unseen force that boosts network performance, the detective that troubleshoots issues before they escalate, and the guide that navigates us through the complex pathways of our network. With an NMS, we're not just reacting to network events, we're anticipating them, managing them, and mastering them. Today, we're going to explore how NMS, specifically Auvik, can transform the way we interact with our network. Hello, and welcome to our final project for INFR 2431. We are Group 3, and today we are going to be talking about Auvik. So what is Auvik? Auvik is a cloud-based network management tool that is used by both MSP and IT teams all around the world. It is a tool that is very easy to use and it is easy to navigate. What does it do exactly? We'll go into more details later, but for now I can say that it helps with efficiency for both the cloud and automations. It prevents and detects problems and issues quickly, and it reduces the risk and improves the security of your network. Auvik has plenty of options to be able to incorporate in your system, whether it is a Windows servers or a workstation, but it can also work with Linux and other operating systems. It can be used on both virtual appliances and also physical appliances. So after creating an account and downloading Auvik, once you make the connection between the two, you'll be taken to the dashboard. And on the dashboard, you'll be able to see your network that you are connected to, and it will instantly be starting to collect information about your network. So the main point of this presentation that we're going to go through is the topology management, where we're going to have an overview of most of our devices and their connection, and we'll also be looking at managing the logical and physical topologies. We have IPAM, or also known as IP address management, and this is where we're going to see how we manage our network, and we'll see that how anything with an IP address that can be found in there, it can also be configured on the dashboard. Following that, we'll be talking about the configuration management, where we'll slowly go through the initial setup. We'll talk about the SNMP, the syslog, the CLI, the backup control, and the alert managements. Following that, we shall be talking about the centralized logging. So Auvik centralizes the syslog so that they can be analyzed and help you find the source of your problem faster. And they can also filter this by the severity, the devices, keywords, and many more different filters, so for you to find your problems even faster. And the last point that we're going to be talking about in this presentation is the performance monitoring. So Auvik monitors the entire estate of your network, and you can create custom alerts that notify you when something goes wrong. It can also analyze everything that you need to know about the state of your devices and the traffic flow in your network. Let's start with the topology management.
Okay, so in order to configure topology management in the Auvik dashboard, we need to do the following. We need to add our site. So this is the cool part about Auvik, is that it allows us to have multiple sites, which is useful for our kind of organization, where we have sites worldwide. In the ITA, there's sites worldwide, so it's going to be very useful to be able to manage all the sites at once. Because Auvik is all managed within the cloud, that means that all we need to do is install collectors within each of our sites. So what this collector is going to do is basically collect all the information on the networks within our site. It's going to crawl through all the networks and collect as much information as it can, and then send it to the dashboard. And then to gain additional information within the device configurations, we're going to have to configure SNMP. We're talking about Cisco devices right now. We're going to have to configure SNMP and configure CLI credentials and enable SSH and Telnet on the device. The reason why we have to configure CLI credentials inside the Auvik dashboard is because the Auvik dashboard is able to automatically run commands such as show commands and a bunch of different commands to automatically propagate the logical topology and physical topology. So our first step is going to be to add a site. So Auvik, like I said, Auvik is managed entirely in the cloud. So once we have an Auvik account set up in the cloud, the next step is just to add our location within Auvik. So I'm going to go through this demo of doing this right now. Okay, so we are now inside the Auvik dashboard. The first thing we're going to do is go to all sites and add a site. We're going to give our site a name, and then a URL that our collector is going to use. And then we're just going to use the root login to log in with this with the collector. In other words, we're just going to use our root account when we install the collector. And okay, our site's been added. So now we have to install the collector on our server. We can do that by clicking into the site, and then it should prompt us to install the collector. Okay. So here we are. So we're going to use the Windows installer because our server is Windows. Okay, so now we're going to input our Auvik email address and then the API key, which we can get from our Auvik dashboard. And then we're going to put that URL we configured earlier, and now we're going to authenticate. Okay, so now that the collector is installed, the Auvik dashboard has realized this, and now it's going to start looking for routing devices within our network. In a few minutes, we should see some networks pop up here for any subnets it was able to find within our light network. Okay, we have found a subnet through a device. So we are going to use this device to map our network. This device is a router and it has the default SNMP credentials, no community strings or anything, so we're able to just directly map the network. And here we are, we have a basic topology of our network. So for further security, even though this worked, we should really enable SNMP on our device without the default credentials. We should have a community string to make this a little bit more secure. So once on the Cisco device, we're going to do that. Okay, so on the Cisco device, we're going to enable community strings by doing the following. SNMP server community, and then we're going to do our community string. Let's just make it Auvik. Obviously we make it more secure in the real world, and then we only need read only. Auvik only needs to read, it does not need to write, so we're going to do community string Auvik read only. And now inside our Auvik dashboard, we're going to go to discovery in our admin panel, and then we're going to go to manage credentials. And here we're going to manage our SNMP credentials. So because this is just a demo, I'm not able to click add SNMP credentials, but essentially this is what your screen would look like. You would have this, and then you basically give your description, the SNMP version, which is, we'll just go with 2C, I think that's the default. And then we're going to use the community string we just set up, which was Auvik. And once you do this, the nice part about the Auvik dashboard is you can have several like routers and switches with different SNMP community strings. As long as you just list community strings here, it's going to automatically figure out which device the community string belongs to, and it's going to be able to just use the SNMP automatically without having to configure each device individually. It's always constantly just trying credentials on each device. So all that work is taken away. You just need to enter the community strings that are in use in your network. Okay, so just to recap, we've done the following. We've added our site, and then we've installed the Auvik collector within our site on a server within our site, and then the Auvik collector has done a crawl of our network to find potential networks to map. And we've mapped the first network. We were able to just map it directly because the SNMP settings on the device had no community strings or anything, so it was just able to automatically authenticate. However, we should input community strings on the device for security, so once we do that, then we can go into the Auvik dashboard, into manage credentials, and enter our SNMP community string right here. So we are now on this step. So CLI credentials. So the cool thing about Auvik is that it's able to automate topology propagation through running several show commands automatically in Cisco devices. When I say topology propagation, I mean literally the entire topology, physical, logical, everything. It can just crawl the whole device to figure out all the backend, and we don't have to do anything. We just have to let it do its magic. So for this reason, Auvik requires your login credentials for each device, and that each device has Telnet or SSH enabled so that Auvik can communicate with the device. Okay, and then just like the SNMP, Auvik will automatically figure out which devices belong to which credentials. So you literally just have to enter a bunch of usernames and passwords here. And then if you have multiple devices using a single username password, 10 devices using other, it's gonna try all those credentials on every single device and figure out which devices are mapped to which credentials. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so for IP address management in Auvik, we've already gone through how Auvik gathers all the IP addresses. We don't have to do anything. It does it all for us by using the routers within the network. So it's going to look for any routers in the network, it's going to communicate with those devices using the CLI or through SNMP, and it's going to try to propagate our entire network all for us. We don't have to do anything, it's all automatic. And then, once that's all done, we can view everything in this nice discovery dashboard, which I'm just going to do a quick demo of. So, in our Auvik portal, we're going to go to discovery dashboard, and we can actually just go directly to manage networks. So this is essentially our IPAM, starting at all the different networks we've got here. In this demo page, there's hundreds of networks, well 92 I guess, networks. So we're going to just drill into one. I'm just going to show you the drilling process through a network. Okay, so we're going to go into one of the larger subnets, so let's try this one. Okay, so we can go to our inventory. You see we have 59 devices in this network. We can see all the IP addresses for each device, and then all the information about each device. And then if we want, we can drill even further than device, we can go to interfaces. And then we can see all the interfaces that are assigned addresses within this subnet. Or if we want to just look at a device and look at all the interfaces within that device, we can click into a device to see the interfaces in this device. In this case, there's only one interface in this device, but some devices have multiple interfaces assigned. So essentially, to do our IP address management, as far as setup, it's all done for us. All we have to do is decide which networks we want to view. So all these are set to scan, but what if there's some networks here that we don't want scanned? Like what if there's like a router that's going out to the internet? We definitely don't want to scan the whole internet. So what we can do is we can set some networks to don't scan. We can click don't scan, and then it won't insert that into our Auvik database, because our Auvik database could theoretically be as big as we want. So we do need to limit which networks we want to view. Okay, so just quickly I'm going to go over this diagram that Auvik gives us automatically. It generates this automatically through all the auto propagation throughout our network. So basically the way it starts is it just categorizes everything. We got devices, IP phones, switches, routers, and if we want to expand, we can click expand all. For this network it's going to be huge, but this is going to show us every individual device in the network. But some cool things we can do is we can hover over like an individual wire. For example, on this link here between this switch and this firewall, we can see that we can see the MAC address, we can see the IP addresses, we can see the access VLANs, and there's a whole bunch of different information depending on which link we're looking at. For this switch, we can see it has all these VLANs running through the link, and then we can see the speeds and yeah, everything.
Now let's talk about the configuration management feature of Auvik. I'm sure at some point in our lives we went through the phase that this was working perfectly fine yesterday, what happened? The network performance dropped, nothing is working, and we always blame the junior technician or the intern. Well, with Auvik, we can turn those frustrating moments into a thing of the past. Let's dive into Auvik's configuration management and backup control and see how it can make our troubleshooting tasks easier. This feature is like a time machine for the network configurations. It automatically backs up all the configuration of the network elements, and we can access the saved configs just by going to the documentation, then configuration on our Auvik dashboard. Auvik also has the feature to compare an old configuration to the current configuration to make it easier to detect what exactly changed in the network. So if something goes wrong, whether from a hardware failure or someone deploying a bad configuration, we can easily roll back to the last known working configuration. Look at that, it's like troubleshooting 101, compare configs built right into the network management system. And it keeps it getting even better. The system polls continuously for configuration changes, so when a change is detected, Auvik makes new backup on the time interval that we have already specified, so we never have to do it ourselves manually. Now let's move on to the remote CLI access feature. This is like having a teleportation device for the network troubleshooting. With Auvik, we can securely access any SSH or Telnet enabled device through Auvik's web interface directly to correct any misconfigurations. Just hover over the remote management button and click terminal, which we will see in our demo in a while. We can enter the credentials for the connection and voila, we're in. No more jumping between multiple tools or wasting time with separate applications. The centralized logging feature in Auvik is like having a detective on the network always ready to solve the mystery of what just happened, as it pulls all of the syslog messages from all the devices and displays them on a central dashboard. To set up syslog with Auvik, we first have to configure our network devices to send syslog messages to the Auvik collector. This involves finding the collector's IP address and enabling syslog on the network equipment and point to the port 514. But the magic doesn't stop there. Auvik allows to customize which syslog messages we want to see. This can be set per device, giving us granular control over the network monitoring. So for example, we can turn on alerts, critical, emergency, error, warning. So depending on the 7 or 8 levels of syslog messages, we can select and specify which ones we want to pull and which one we want to display. Once everything is set up, we can see the centralized syslog messages per device or for all devices. We can even choose a custom time frame. So if we have NTP enabled on all of our devices and they're synchronized and all of the timings are correct, we can just choose, or we can narrow it down to the very seconds of an event occurring, so we can see exactly at which point a fault occurred in the network. Now let's look at some demonstration. From the dashboard, let's go check out our configuration. So from documentations, we click configurations, and this is our currently running configuration. To the right, we can see to the left, we have the previously saved configuration backups from the device. If we click on any of them, we can see what that version was running and what our current version is running. If we want to compare between two configurations, we can click on Manage Configurations and Compare and select which version of the configurations to compare. Right there on the left and right, we can see what exactly changed in our network. So we can see if we were looking at the first line, so it changed from the I configuration. From DES, it went to triple DES, and the SHA hashing algorithm changed from MD5 to SHA-1. Once we have figured out exactly what happened, we can just restore any previously running version, any previously working version to the current version. And we can go to the remote terminal to correct any changes directly from the web portal. So we're gonna click on terminal. In the same web browser, in the same session, we can see that the user Auvik logged in with the previously saved credential, and we can just execute commands directly on here. To view the syslog messages, we can select view logs from the syslog on the dashboard, and we can see all the syslog messages that came in from this device to Auvik dashboard. But let's say we want to troubleshoot a problem that happened the day before at 5 p.m. or whatever. So to narrow it down to the very second, we can click on view logs to see all the logs that we have collected from all the devices. So we'll just wait to refresh. Here we can see we have about 7,000 log entries from all of our devices. We can select on the time frame here. These entries are from the last 10 minutes. So we can click on the time window and we can narrow it down to the specific seconds to see exactly what happened at that time frame. So we have set this to exactly 1 minute, and we can see that we have these error messages where we have the informational warning error etc. Syslog severity levels specified here, and we can see all the logs for that one specified minute. We can also filter by the device name, the message, the severity, and the IP address of the actual device.
So Auvik has a ton of features to help you analyze everything that's going on your network. So let's look into all of these features that Auvik has one by one. There's a lot of information that Auvik outputs. Thankfully, their dashboard is really helpful and really easy to understand. First, to check the overall connection, the connection to the internet, to the ISP, to see if a problem is actually internal or external, we can check the traffic going in and out of the network based on an IP address, our entire network. As you can see, Auvik keeps track of how many packets you dropped and the average RTT. Then once you figure out where the problem is, if it's an internal problem, you can go through the devices, you can follow the packets and look in depth into every single device. So for each device, we can see the following information all in the dashboard. We can see the software version and the latest software version provided by the vendor. So that's a good way of proactive troubleshooting to make sure we always have the latest and most secure software. You can also see if the device you have is being supported by the vendor or not, or what was the last patch that they introduced. You can also see how long the device has been up for, what interfaces are up, or if there are any alerts that originated from this device, which is what would originally should take us off, as in something's wrong with this device. We can also see per interface how much data is transmitted and how much data is received, the speeds, where it's connected, what VLANs are accepted, etc. And then you can see how much CPU the device is using, how much memory, how much storage, as well as how the entire bandwidth of the device, how much traffic is transmitting per second, how much is receiving, how much is processing per second. Not only that, but you can see what type of traffic, if it's multicast, if it's unicast, if it's broadcast. But say we find a bottleneck or there's an issue with one of the devices, then we can look further into all of the traffic. So here we can see exactly all of your traffic. You can pinpoint specific spikes on your traffic through the timeline down below, and then you can see exactly what's going on at that time frame. For that time frame, you can see on a legend what type of traffic that is and how much it is. So for example, you can see if it's encrypted, if it's streaming, if it's voice over IP, etc. Once you click on the legend, you can see even further into what type of traffic that divides. For example, if we had video streaming traffic, you can click on it and see if it's from Netflix, from YouTube, from Spotify, etc. So not only you can see specifically all of the type of traffic, but you can see from what devices it's originating from and to what device it's going to, or at least what country. So for example, you can see that most of the traffic came from a specific device name with a specific IP address. So you can find the culprit of who's hogging all of your bandwidth. Anyway, let's go back now to see how alerts are generated and how you can make use of them so you don't have to check every single device for these traffic issues. There are 4 types of alerts, which are emergency, critical, warning, and informational, that the devices can generate. There are 50 of these alerts that already come pre-configured on the software, ready to use out of the box. These 50 alerts are based on industry best standards. However, you can always modify them, delete them, or create them. There are a lot of configurations you can do, so you have granular control of what happens when. You can choose the device, when it triggers the alert, how it triggers the alert, or what it does with the alert. So you can choose, for example, that a switch is using more than 80% of its bandwidth, and if that happens, you can receive an email. However, that's not the only thing. You can use integrations, so you can receive Microsoft Teams messages, Slack messages. There are many ways you can make these alerts reach you. If you have different sites, you can also see on the map what alerts are coming from what site, what's the state of the alert, or what's the level of importance. So you can immediately click on there, go to the dashboard, and start troubleshooting as fast as possible.
In conclusion, Auvik is not just a network management server. It is a comprehensive network maintenance solution that addresses all the key aspects of network management. We've explored how Auvik excels in topology management, providing a clear and up-to-date visual representation of your network infrastructure. We've seen how its IP address management, IPAM, features simplifies the task of tracking and managing the IP addresses in your network. We've delved into the power of Auvik's configuration management and backup control, which ensures that your network configurations are always backed up and can be easily restored when needed. We've seen how the Auvik's centralized logging feature provides a unified view of syslog data across all your network's devices, making it easier to identify and troubleshoot issues. And finally, we've seen how Auvik's performance monitoring feature keeps a constant watch on your network's health, alerting you to any potential issues before they become serious problems. With Auvik, the ITA's network will not only be well managed, but also optimized for peak performance. It's easy to use, easy to set up, and most importantly, it turns network management from a chore into a breeze. So let's say goodbye to "but it worked yesterday" and hello to "it works every day" with Auvik. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of network management. We hope you found it as enlightening and as exciting as we did. And remember, with Auvik, you're not just managing your network, you're mastering it. Thank you.